Hey loves, it's been a little while since I've done one of these, so I thought I would check in. And I really wanted to talk about one topic in particular because it's been coming up, and I want to make sure that I explain to you my perspective. A couple of weeks ago, I was putting on the light language, the lightning bolt videos on TikTok, and they just kind of blew up, which is really great because like these are such loving energies, and having them out in the world for a new generation, I think, is just such a treat. Like they get access to this so much earlier on than some of us did, because it's becoming popularized, normalized, right now in this time of ascension. And so one of the things, so there's been a lot of comments on these videos, and I try to go through some of them, but and it's noticing patterns. And one of them is just like, oh, you look so happy, your vibe is so joyful, or so peaceful, or so calm. And I wanted to talk about my experience, my journey, because I think it's important to demystify this idea that sometimes it's others that have got it. I was not like this all the time. I was not like this all the time. As a self-identified, sensitive, and empath who did not know any better, I didn't know that I was those things when I was in high school, when I was in university. What happened is that I was, and I was, just like everybody else, kind of playing out in most of my relationships, whether they be family or romantic or friendship relationships. I was playing out codependency in some fashion. So I was constantly in kind of like sensorially triggered states. So I was constantly like, it was just too much for my little system. I didn't have the tools. I didn't even know I could get the tools. So it was just, being on the bus, and then being in like these giant lecture halls when I was in university that had hundreds of people in them. Every kid out there like was stressed out about grades. And so I just kind of like attuned to that, and so was I. And I didn't know that there was another way. I didn't know that there was another way to feel. I didn't know I could choose another way to feel. And I didn't know necessarily how to shield myself from that or choose another state. But you can, and it can be done. And as much as these times right now are times of great change, and that it's not always easy, that there's a lot of sorrow and unearthing of sorrow that is coming through, and I want to let you know that I respect that 100%. At the same time, because you're more isolated, if you're an empath and a sensitive, you might have noticed that there's a certain baseline that you're on that may not be the baseline you're on when you're like surrounded by people all the time. That little shift in how you behave, how triggered you feel, how drained you feel at the end of the day, that little shift, that's bringing you closer to you. And this is definitely a bit more relevant to the introverts and the empaths than the extroverts, just because of the way we relationship with energy. So that is already a really great observation tool in your tool belt to figure out, hey, maybe I am a sensitive. Maybe I actually, I'm taking on energetically a little bit more than I can chew. And so that's why I'm feeling a little bit less awesome than I want to feel. So that's already a great starting point. That's a really great starting point of observation. And then the next thing is the continuous, and it is a continuous process. The continuous process of observing, refining, nurturing, and communicating with yourself. And so this is a process I'm doing every day, over and over again, every week, every month onwards, right? this isn't something that's done. You're like, you got it and you're done. No. There's always room for adjustments towards something else that you're excited to go towards. And so I was bitter, I was resentful, I was short-tempered, I could be that a little bit still. Yeah. But all these things, like, I was naggy, I was kind of needy. I mean, I didn't have like all these great attributes to talk about myself if I had to describe who I was, in terms of behaviors, not in terms of my heart, but in terms of behaviors. And so over time, I have been inspired by people who show up better. I have been inspired by people who hold a higher frequency. They have modeled through their energetic field and through their actions that there is another way. So I hope that when you see me show up on video and be, full of love and joy, no matter what the experience of the outside moment is, know that it's been nurtured. It's a choice I make over and over again to be like, okay, what do I want to feel? And it's a great question. What do I want to feel? That's at the basis of the law of attraction, really. What do I want to feel? Sometimes we just want to feel our sorrow. Like at the beginning of the year was quite difficult for me, and I just wanted to feel all my feelings. So, I mean, obviously I didn't show up joyful and giddy during that time because I was not feeling those feelings and I wasn't interested in feeling those feelings at that time. I wanted to be honest in my relationship to myself, with myself. So, what is that for you? How does that show up for you? What does that mean to you in your life? You've probably been doing this already, but you can always deepen it, right? I can always deepen it. Everybody can always deepen this practice of communicating inward and asking, what do I want on the inside? How do I want to feel? How do I want to show up so that it serves others? And another thing that I think has been really instrumental and really helpful in that questioning and in that refining kind of in which direction we want our hearts to, to aim towards and to go towards, to I don't know, I just feel joy when I think of that, like an expansion. It is in the moments in which there is some sort of, quote unquote negative emotion. And the question is not like, or it's more like a statement. Instead of saying, okay, how do I want to feel? Well, I want to feel some other way than this shitty feeling, for example. Then you can be asking yourself, or you can be stating to yourself, instead of saying like, I choose to be happy, you can say, I want to head towards happiness. I wonder what it would be like, what it would feel like to experience happiness right now. That pulled me through. I am not happy right now, but I choose happiness. I choose to believe that one day I will be happy again. I hope that it serves whoever it is supposed to serve. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being on this earth at this time. The work that you do is so important, even if it is work that only you know you do. Because if no other human knows it, the universe knows. It ripples out. Everything rearranges itself. So thank you.